It's finally time you learn about the paper. But not yet. Soon. Hello, my name is Clover, and this is my art channel. I basically just do a ton of cool art stuff on here, like random crafts. Today, I decided, you know what, let's just randomly make a belt. Actually, I didn't make that decision today. I made that decision a few months ago, because this video took forever to make. I kid you not, making a belt from scratch is pretty intense. And the thing you just saw me throw on the floor, yeah, that's the pattern for the belt. And I didn't even start off with that pattern. I had to make it up halfway through the video just because making a belt without a pattern is kind of, how do I say this nicely? Stupid. So if you do intend to attempt this, I'd recommend a few things. First of all, watch the whole video through because this is a long process. It takes a lot of time and space. This video actually took so much space that it prevented me from making other art videos because it took up my entire setup for months because that's how long it took. Now, you could probably get this done a lot quicker than in months. It doesn't really take that long, but I was working on it at little bits at a time. But if I were to try and like combine all the hours, I'd say it took me over 40 hours to make. So this project of making a belt is a lot. So maybe think about it and consider it before you decide, yeah, let's make a belt. And if you do decide that you truly do want to do this, just keep in mind that you are going to need a lot of beads and a lot of string. And you're gonna need good quality string because the string I use is pretty stretchy and low quality, and because of that, I don't really feel comfortable wearing the belt around just because I'm worried that it's gonna break and stuff. So if you want your belt to be able to like actually wear on a regular basis, then use some like good quality string and not just the cheap stretchy stuff, okay? That we've got all of this out of the way, again, you do not have to make this belt if you don't want to. My channel is kind of like tutorials and stuff, but also just like, hey, I made this cool thing, it could give you inspiration or something. So yeah. Anyways, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy. Leave a like, put some comments, all that stuff. I do respond to comments pretty quickly, so if you wanted to let me know something, then just go ahead. But yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Why, hello! Now, you're probably wondering, how did I even come to the idea of making an entire belt from scratch? Well, it actually has to do with the color of my nails, or rather, the color of the frog that sits on my desk during intros and outros. Now, I don't actually know how to crochet, but I bought this from a local vendor, and honestly, he's so cute, and I just love the color of him. So I thought, why not make some more accessories that are kind of the same color of him? So, first of all, we have this kind of squishy and almost stretchy material. I'm not really sure what it is because it's not quite string because it has all of these little holes in it. I think it's used for making dish rags, but honestly, I thought it was so cool and I do have an idea of what I could make out of that. But what we're going to be worrying about today is, of course, all of these beads I have that are around the same color. As you can see, there are some white ones in there, but they are mostly that kind of seafoam green color, which does so happen to be my favorite color. So I was kind of already planning to make an accessory or something out of the beads, but we can't use these two materials together because it just won't really work. I was thinking we could do two separate crafts, so let's get that string out of here. So that leaves us with all these beads, and what we're gonna do is pull out a palette so that I can kind of just pour the beads into there and sort them because, like I said, I have a ton of different types of beads. So let's just go ahead and sort those all out, and then I will show them off to you. And I do have to say, I did struggle quite a bit with sorting them just because with my nails, it's kind of hard to control these little beads. I did have a few techniques that kind of worked with like scooping and pouring them out, but even with those, it was still kind of difficult to sort all these beads. But honestly, I don't regret it because it made it a lot easier to kind of visualize how many different types of beads I had and how many numbers of certain beads I had, like how many of the blue stars and white stars and pearls I had, which made it a lot easier to kind of just think and plan out what I kind of wanted to do. So I definitely would say that it was worth it, even if at times it was quite challenging. But now that they're all sorted, I'm gonna give you a quick little tour of the different beads we have. We have these pretty flower ones, which I absolutely love, this miniature pearl, this 3 charm, which I don't really like, this one, which is pretty, but I only have one, the mermaid and seashell ones, these ones, which are pretty cool, the star ones, of course, which I love and I'm probably gonna use, and then some regular sized pearls, and these heart ones, which are kind of hard to see. And now that we've taken a look at all of my beads, I think we need to decide which string we're gonna use. And don't worry, I have plenty of options for string. So that stretchy silver one in the background was actually the one I used when making the potions to kind of put around the cauldron, and it's decently stretchy. It's okay quality, and honestly, I'm probably gonna use it because what I want to do is I don't want just like a single thread. I want multiple threads of string, and I'm kind of gonna interweave them. I don't exactly know how it'll work, but we'll figure it out. But this one would honestly be a good contender because again, it's stretchy, and honestly, I can just see myself using it. It kind of matches the color palette and everything, but let's move on to our next option. So then we have pretty much the same thing in gold, which is pretty cool, but it doesn't really match the color palette. I have to say the silver goes a lot better with the beads I have picked out, so let's say no to that one. And then we also have this twine one, which is pretty nice, and again, it's a silver color, but I'm honestly kind of worried that the string might be too thick for the openings of the beads. Like, I really would like to use this bead, but I just don't think it'll fit on that one. So I think we're gonna have to just kind of not use that one and use a different string. Speaking of different types of string, we also have these ones, which are kind of like yarn, and they're more used for making friendship bracelets. Now, I do have some pretty cool colors, and if any, I'd probably use the blue for this project. But honestly, I'd probably use these for something else, especially since we already have the silver, which seems like such a good fit. But before we can even start working with our lovely silver string, which is the one I chose, we have to get our beads all nice and lined up. So here you can see me slowly but surely, well actually kind of quickly, but in reality, this took me a long time to do, just kind of organize all of my beads into a pattern that I was happy with. I decided to stick with the pearls and stars because some of the other beads I had a lot less of, and trying to make kind of a pattern including the beads that I had a lot less of would just be kind of a hassle and make things a lot more complicated than they needed to be. Especially because these ones all had kind of like wide enough openings that they weren't gonna be awkward when I was trying to put the string through, so they would be a lot easier to work with than some of the other ones, like those really pretty green ones that I absolutely loved, but they just had a bead opening that was too small for the string to fit through comfortably. So I decided to stick with these, and honestly, I'm pretty happy with the pattern I decided on. You can kind of see the blue star kind of goes up and down in a zigzag, and honestly, I think it's really pretty. So now that we have our lovely pattern all done, it is time to move on to the next step. And normally that would be to start trying to thread the belt and get the beads onto the string. But at this point I had already tried that, so let's get a live report from me at the time explaining exactly what happened and what are we gonna do next.
I basically tried to like do the thing and it didn't work. So see, I have like 6 strings here. Yeah, that's not how that works. I didn't know how it worked, so I just was like, yeah, let's wing it. That didn't go well. It was like I put bead after bead, took a long time, and it was just not going well. It was not looking good. It actually looked really ugly, so I just decided let's put the pattern back how it was originally and let's just try it again, because it's okay to just like restart and stuff. I was watching a tutorial and on how to do this, and this is not what we need. We don't need 6 separate strings. We need 1 single string. So what we're going to do is that 1 string is supposed to be 4 times the length, so that means I'm going to take those, untape them because you saw they were taped over there or something, but anyways, I'm going to take those off, I'm going to go on the floor, I'm going to lay them out all in a huge line, and then I'm going to measure it and unravel. I'm kind of worried, I think I'm kind of running low on the string, but honestly I probably should have enough for this project. So again, I will be right back. Yeah, cool, bye. Alright, I'm back and my string is depleted. You can see there's a lot less, which is not great, but I do have this very long piece of string, like that's a lot of string. That little thing, 16 times the length of this. So yeah, I don't really know what to do with these now, because now I have 6 of these things. But I guess I do have a use for them.
Now, I don't know if you've ever actually met my cat, but this is Miko. She is my beautiful kitten. She is around 2 years old and she loves to play with stringy things. So obviously she was very content when I presented her with this string.
Miko, Miko, dude, say hi. I think she likes it. Anyways, that's what I can use these for. I'm sure she'll like unravel them and stuff, so yeah. Anyways, those are my cats now. I might save a few of them since there's like 6 of them for other projects, but we don't need them right now.
And after deeply struggling to just even pick up the string, I did eventually get it all together and folded it in half. Now, why am I folding it in half? Well, we're gonna try a thing called the ladder stitch, which is a technique used in candy to make belts and other things. So I decided at this point, because what I was trying was not working, I needed some help. So I went to the internet and I found the ladder stitch, which looked like it might work, so I gave it a shot. But eventually it did not end up working because there was this kind of like little awkward hole in the middle, but I wanted my rose to be more visible. Overall, this is something that works for candy, but not really for just random beads like the ones I have here. So I took a look at the internet again and tried to find some other patterns or something that would work for what I was wanting to do. But I didn't end up finding anything, so I decided to use my brain and try and make my own pattern. To start off the pattern, I grabbed the pencil and drew the 2 pieces of string that would not be moving and kind of serve as like the border. Then I drew little circles with the pencil to represent the beads. Then I picked up the blue pen and started to kind of trace where one of the strings would be, and then another one along the top. Then I went and grabbed the green one to add another one of those strings. So again, the pens and pencil lines represent where the strings would be. But I quickly realized that it wasn't really clear what I was doing and I kind of messed up the positioning of some of the lines. So I restarted again, drawing those little circles to represent the beads. Then I picked up the blue pen again and traced where one of the lines would be. And then I started to do the green lines, and then I realized, wait, how many strings do I need for this? So I started to tally it up at the top as I went along with the project so that I'd easily and quickly be able to see how many strings I would need. And once I was all done adding in the other strings and tallying it up, I figured out that I would need 8 strings. And that means I need 2 more than the 6 I already had, but I already gave one to my cat, which means I only had 5 of the 8 strings left, so I need 3 more, and that means if I cut up the huge big string, which is 4 times the length of one of the regular ones, I would have 4 more pieces and 1 other one to give to my cat. Now, I know the pattern looks confusing, but it just works by interweaving the beads and strings so that when you put it all together, the beads will be pushed together. So at the top and bottom, we have these gray pencil lines, which represent kind of the border string, which will kind of keep those 2 lines together where they're supposed to be. Then we have the blue lines, which either start at the border lines on each side and then kind of go up and down into the middle lines. Then the green ones start in the middle lines and go down to the border lines. And then of course we have the red and gray line in the middle, which kind of just swap with each other. So basically, it's just interweaving things with each other. I know it looks very complicated, but I'm gonna walk you through it, and you'll notice that there's a very simple pattern that will make it a lot easier. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and put the pattern up on my bulletin board so that I can take a look at it while I'm working on this. And yes, that is why the paper was up there. But this, we are going to have to undo those and put them back and then cut it so that we have our 4 extra pieces just like we were planning to do. So now we're gonna start getting our strings all in position so that we're ready to start kind of weaving it. And because we're weaving just kind of like a friendship bracelet, you're gonna wanna tape the strings down on the side of your table so that they don't like get all messed up and stuff when you're kind of weaving and putting the beads on. So once you've done that, you're gonna wanna separate them so that all of the strings are separate and you can see all 8 of them and they're not really touching each other. Once you've done all that, we're gonna start putting the beads on. And I've cut this because, again, this belt is huge, but I've cut it to a point where you can actually see what I'm doing so that I can explain it to you. So once you've put your beads on the strings, what you're gonna wanna do is gently tug at the pieces of string, because there's 2, and see that one tugs the bottom one, so we're gonna put that underneath. So again, you're gonna gently tug at the strings, and that one tugs the bottom one, so that's correct. And you're gonna do that for all of them so that the strings are in their proper order. Because again, with our pattern, the order of the strings matters very much, and if you mess that up, it could mess up the whole design. So again, you just want to tug that string gently, and if it causes tension on the top one, then it should be at the top. And if it causes tension on the bottom string, it should be at the bottom. Also, try and make sure there's clear space in between the strings so that you can easily tell which string belongs to the bottom and which one belongs to the top. But once you're all done with that, what you can start doing is gently pushing the beads towards the other ones and making sure to keep them in line. So you can see me holding down the string to make sure they stay in line while gently pushing the beads towards the other ones. And if you just kind of rearrange those, they should be in the proper line. And now what we're gonna do is start weaving. So what you're gonna do is identify the top and bottom string, and then once you've done that, you're going to gently take the pieces of string and lift one over the other. Again, You don't do that for the top and bottom string, those stay exactly where they were. And then you should have 4 lines. Now I know that went a little quick, but don't worry, I'm gonna show it to you all again. But first, what we're gonna wanna do is again, make sure your beads are in line, grab the string, and gently slide the beads onto it. Just a reminder, each bead should be threaded through 2 strings, and you can see some are just kind of making a gap there, but once you slide the beads together, it makes it a lot easier and keeps things all together. Again, that's why the pattern is so good, because it'll make sure everything is nice in line and uniform. So now that we've slided all our beads, we are back to our other position. Again, we're just gonna adjust those because if you adjust them as you go, it makes it a lot easier later. But now what we're gonna wanna do is repeat the process again. So again, you wanna tug at those strings, identify which one is the top and bottom one, and put them in their respective places. So if it causes tension on the top, then it should be on the top string. And if it causes tension on the bottom, then it should be in the bottom position. And I'd encourage you to really take your time with this because again, this part of the project is so important as it can kind of make or break it because order is so important. But once you finally have your strings in position, you're gonna grab that middle top one and lift it up so that it's now with the top, then the other middle top, push that one down, and then the top from the bottom and push the bottom one down. I don't know if that fully made sense, but again, you're just following the pattern of kind of making sure they're interweaved. So once you've done it, it should look something like that. Then you're gonna repeat the process of sliding your beads on and then just continue kind of weaving it. I, again, don't know if how I explained it helped you understand, but it's kind of difficult to explain really, and even myself while doing the project didn't fully understand it. You just kind of gotta find the pattern for yourself, and once you've established it, it'll become very easy. But wait, what happens if you run out of string? Because that did happen to me. As you can tell, my strings were getting pretty short throughout the process of weaving. Does happen, don't worry too much, just push the thing you've already done kind of up and out of your way so that you can pretty much do the same thing again. Yep, that's right, we're pretty much gonna repeat the exact same process but just with a different string, which is why we have our gold string out. Obviously, I'm not too pleased about having to use the gold string, and obviously there was the silver twine, but this was the closest in material to the silver one, so it just made sense to use it so that, like, for consistency and stuff, but obviously it's gonna look a little weird with the gold instead, but honestly, that's my fault for not understanding it better. But hey, I did make this kind of pattern up on the way, so who knows. Anyways, what we're gonna do now is, again, just kind of adjust your belt so that it's nice and out of your way so that you no longer need to worry about it. And we're just going to repeat the exact same process of putting the beads on and then keep threading it and intertwining it, just like I showed you those 2 times, so that you have another long piece of your lovely belt. And then what we're gonna do is going to try and kind of interweave them. But to do that, we're gonna have to, once again, identify the tops and bottom strings so that we can kind of interweave them just like the pattern says. So again, we're going to separate our strings. Once they're all nice and ready, we're going to cross them over each other just like before, as if we're getting ready to put beads on them. Then we're going to string them through the beads on the other piece of the string. Now you might need to put the strings through the beads one at a time, but it doesn't matter as long as you get the string through the beads, because this will kind of keep the belt together and make it so that instead if we were to tie it or something, it won't look as awkward. So you're gonna wanna do that for both parts of the belt, just kind of threading the strings through each other as if you were just threading on the next bead. But instead of a bead, we're obviously threading string in the other part of the belt. So obviously you can tell even just by threading the 2 pieces of string into the beads, it is looking pretty messy. And I will admit this is pretty difficult to do, but by now, I'm sure you have the ability to do this because you've been working with the belt just like I have. You know the patterns, so just stick to what you know and continue to try and follow that pattern. Even if it looks messy, just kind of trust yourself and kind of keep in mind what you've already threaded and what you haven't. And yes, again, it does look really messy, but once you pull it all together, it will look nice and uniform. Okay, so maybe it doesn't look quite right just yet, but just give it an extra little pull and then you should be all good. You're just kind of pulling those loose strings and those loops out by just kind of tugging on the strings. You don't really want to pull them all at the same time, just kind of giving them gentle tugs will kind of show you what needs to happen. And look at that, it's already looking quite a bit better. So just continue to gently pull at the strings and adjust the belt until it looks like one whole belt instead of 2 random pieces of a belt smushed together. So again, this is gonna take a lot of adjusting. You're gonna kind of want to push it and stuff, but once it's looking a lot better, what you're gonna want to do is just cut those excess pieces of string off. And I know that doesn't sound ideal, but we're gonna hot glue them kind of together so that the belt looks more uniform. Or you could tie it in a knot, I guess, but you can see here that that looks really clunky and just doesn't really look great. So let's go with the option of cutting those excess strings off, and we're going to take our hot glue gun to kind of secure them to the beads, and make sure you're gluing both sides of the bead so that the string doesn't move at all. That'll keep it nice and secure. And then once you've done that for each 4 of the beads where the kind of strings intersect, you're gonna want to cut off that extra string. Now you're gonna have to be very careful about how you do this, but you want to cut the string almost as close to the bead as you can so that it's very hard to see that there is any excess string. But again, be very careful because you do not want to cut the belt, just the excess pieces of string. But wait, we still need a way to attach the belt sides to each other. Well, the way we're going to do that is with our lovely little clippy thing. Now, I don't know where I got this. I think it was from an art project or some sort, but basically we're gonna snap it in half because that's what those clippy things do, and we're going to wrap the piece at the end around it and secure it with hot glue. You're kinda gonna wanna secure the beads to the thing, not just the string, so that it's extra strong, again with hot glue, and then same for the other side. Now, I don't really have any good footage of this because again, this is at the end of the table, but now that that's all done, I will go and show you how the belt looks.
So here it is, the finished belt. It's kind of hard to see. I'll show you one of the parts next to the clip so that you can kind of see. It's very detailed and you can see it's pretty messy, but it's a belt. It works. But honestly, I'm pretty proud of this because it took like forever to make. But yeah, kind of probably hard to look at with it just like in my hand like this. So let's put it on and show you what it looks like. Alright, so here is the belt. As you can see, it's not really keeping like its proper pattern when I wear it. Like it's kind of getting all mixed up. But when you lay it down flat, it does kind of keep its shape. So it doesn't look the most flattering on. I am still proud of it because it did take like forever to make, but I gotta say the transition between the gold and silver at the end, like around here, is kind of weird and not the most amusing. But anyways, that's the belt. Yay! But yeah, no, I'd say all in all I'm pretty proud of it. I would not make this again though, but I think it was a fun thing to do. I definitely would use stronger string next time. And yeah, no, I think for making a belt from scratch, it went pretty well. But anyways, let me know what you think, and I hope you enjoyed. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye! Okay, that was a long video. Wait. Oh, wait, you're still here? Dude, the video's done. What are you still doing here? Go watch some other content. I'm gonna have another video next Tuesday. Go, get out, go!